Welcome to week 3 of Spiritual Truths and Lies we often can experience after pregnancy loss. My name is Catherine Ball, and this is my channel, A Touch of Flourish. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to see more content like this, to talk about miscarriage, pregnancy loss, but also spirituality, chronic illness, all that stuff. So for week 3, I really want to talk about kind of being in this journey. Just that I'm not, guys, I'm not making these videos from a place of, I've been through this, I already know all this, and I already have a healthy baby, and so this is how you can go through it and be fine. Like, that's not actually where I'm coming from. I am coming from a place of, yes, I've been through this, but I'm actually in it. So, you're kind of seeing my middle. And I hope that you understand that this, these videos and really doing this is about creating a safe place for those of us that are in it together, in the weeds. It's not about saying, well, I know all of this and so this is how you can get through it. Like, I just don't, there's nothing wrong with that when people do that. There's nothing wrong. And I will share about future pregnancies, and I'm definitely going to need the support, but it's not coming from a place of, I've done that and I figured it all out. It's not what's happening here. So this is why I really am interested in your input and what you guys feel like you're going through, especially spiritually with God. We're all so different, and I know that I share a lot about what I've experienced, and I'll continue to do that. But I am interested in where you're at. So if you're watching this video, if you found it, I want to know from you, if you have experienced pregnancy loss, where are you in your grief? Where are you in your walk with God? Are you at a place where you're really at peace with everything? Are you still very much fresh in it? And I want to know, it always helps me to hear about people going on and having healthy pregnancies and, healthy babies and that sort of thing. I think that's always so encouraging. So if you do have one of those stories, if you have lived that out, I would love to hear about that. And I have talked to many women. I'm one of those women too, have had recurrent miscarriages and losses. So it's, I want to hear from everybody, because I think that what we're going through, we don't need to mask and pretend that we know it all, or that that we're fine and because I think sometimes we are, and then with grief or just with whatever's going on, sometimes old things can come back, just in terms of feeling the pain and sadness. And they might be fleeting, or they might stick around for a while. And I think having that open conversation about it and just being honest about where we are with God is so important to do with one another, instead of pretending that we've got it all figured out. If you haven't noticed, I'm not really a fan of fake it till you make it. So I don't like that. I don't feel like that's authentic. And I think that honestly, when we perpetuate that stuff and say, I've got it all figured out, I think that honestly pushes a lot of people away. And I think that breeds disconnection between us, and we were built for relationship. And I don't think that we have to even know each other in real life to relate to one another and say, you know what, I've struggled with this, and I've really continued to press in and seek God about it. And this is what God told me. This is what I've learned through it. This is what happened. So that's why I say, I want to hear from you guys, because it's so encouraging too. And just understand that, I'm in between too. I'm not at a place of, oh, look at this rainbow baby. That's great, but that's not really where I'm coming from. I hope that you guys will be okay if I share that. I will share it. So I guess you'll have to be okay with it. But, I don't think that that's the point of healing from God. And I think that for me, it's it's like, yes, God's going to heal me. Yes, God's going to, these children that he's promised, there are 2 more children that he talked about years ago. And so I believe that they're going to come to pass. I do understand now to hold loosely to the picture I have in my mind of what that will look like. And while that's been a hard lesson, I'm fully submitted. It's hard, but I feel like I get it now. Whereas before, when God has spoken about promises of children, I had an image in my mind of what that would look like. And I thought I knew like what God was saying. And yes, God said 4 children. Yes, God said, be careful, there will be miscarriage. I thought that meant 1 miscarriage. I didn't think it could be, with the first 2 children. Like, I just didn't think that. So it's about holding loosely to our picture of what, God has promised to us, because I think sometimes we get that image stuck in our mind. And then when it doesn't, it comes to pass and it doesn't look quite that way, we can really, really become so disappointed and disheartened and disconnected from God, because we think that he lied, or that his, word didn't come to pass in the way he said it would, or he didn't keep his end of the bargain. And none of those things are really true. It's that we had something set in our mind of what it had to look like according to what we wanted and hoped for. And there's nothing wrong with dreaming. But when that dream or that promise doesn't come to pass that way, we also have to reconcile with ourselves over time and submit to God and say, ooh, you know what? I think I made assumptions about your promises. For me, it was like, I'm sorry, I made assumptions, and, but I'm fully submitted to you. I'm fully open to whatever you need it to look like, because there has been so much revelation that has come from just these lost children. And it's one of those things where I would never go up to say, and I would never go say to someone and say, well, you're just going to have so much revelation after these losses, and you're going to be fine. Like, don't ever do that. But for me, that's been my experience. Okay. Along with the grief, right? So it doesn't take away the pain. It doesn't take away all of that, but the things that God has shown me, and he's really shown me who he is, as bizarre as it is to say that. So yeah, I would say if you feel like, because God still speaks, if God has promised you children and they've come to pass, or some of them have come to pass, or one of them, whatever it is in your situation, and it doesn't look the way you thought it would, and you're really wrestling with that, just take heart and know that it's okay if you had a different picture of what it would look like. It's okay that you were hoping for something different. It's okay that you wanted something different than what God, allowed to happen, and how that promise came to pass. You just have to reconcile with the fact and really submit to the fact that it just may not have been, that just may have been your picture of how that was going to come to pass, rather than, obviously what God allowed. And I'm sorry that happened. I'm so sorry. I don't think it's fair. I don't think nothing in life is really fair. But we do have a just God. And so I would say really press into God and deal with all the emotions that come up with that, because listen, they're all valid. No judgment. If you're mad, sad, angry, hurt, you feel like you can't trust God, you feel all these things, like you do have to confront that. And so confront it. Don't run from it, deal with it. And the cool thing is that, God's still around. So if you're not talking to God, he's still waiting for you. And he'll be there ready for you when you're ready to turn to God. I think that sometimes we can feel shameful because we may not be ready to talk to God after these losses. And we may not feel like we can talk about that to other Christians, or to tell, our church leaders, or to, maybe you're a church leader and you feel like you can't even be honest about that because of your position. And I would just really, I'm encouraging you, especially if you're in a leadership role, to be transparent about it, to be honest. Now, you don't have to put your business out there to everybody, but I'm saying you also don't need to put up a facade. So there needs to be that line of truth of, you know what? I am going to be honest about this. I am working through this. I don't have it all figured out. And I think that people really relate to that. And I'm telling you that especially if you're in a leadership position in a church, you will bring people actually closer to God by showing them your middle, your in between, by being truthful. Our pastor has shared stuff openly about when his wife, our other pastor, went through cancer, and he went through a little bit of unbelief, and he realized it a little bit later of whoa, you know what? I was trying to help God out and sell some things because financially, God, I didn't feel like, well, we had to pay bills, we had to make ends meet. And so he said, oh, well, God, you're busy, I'll help you out. But that's actually unbelief, because you are saying, I'm going to help you out. And so it was rooted in unbelief. So he has shared that before. And I felt like that is just so encouraging to hear the truth, because he wasn't lying. When he, and I mean, to have found a safe church and a church that like allows you to be who God made you to be is everything. To be authentic and true. I hope that each and every one of you gets planted in a church that you feel safe in. For those of you that, don't like church and hate church, I totally understand that. Actually, I came from that background. So that's a different story for a different day. But I always remind myself of him sharing that story, because I never want to put on a facade that there aren't struggles or that there aren't things that I've wrestled with God with chronic illness. I'm healed of endometriosis, but there were things I really had to battle with God and understanding who God is through getting that healing. And then I'm believing in healing with interstitial cystitis. Well, it's a lot of things that God's having me do differently, actually. So with miscarriage and pregnancy loss, I think that it's the same thing of, man, there are things that God's really showing me, and there are things that I've wrestled with, there are things that I've had to confront, and it's a process. It's not always pretty, and it's okay wherever you are. Don't compare yourself to someone else. You're going to be okay. Continue to stay the course, continue to wait on God. And if you feel like you can't talk to God, I would say we've all kind of been there. You're not alone in that either. It's not something that you need to be ashamed of. I do think it's something that you need to confront, but on your own time, in your own way, when you're ready, because, it looks different for all of us. So I just really encourage you guys to share your stories. You can share them here in the video. Even if you want to email, my email is atouchofflourish@gmail.com. I'll have it in the description. So even if you don't want to publicly share, that's okay. You can share with me. You can share with someone. Talk with someone about it. If you have a close friend, if you have family you can trust, if you have church friends or really church family you can trust. Not everybody is going to have someone in all these categories, right? So the most important thing is to not isolate yourself and to connect with someone. You don't have to be connecting with the whole town, but someone that you can trust and confide in, because we aren't meant to do this alone. And honestly, it's why I truly feel led to do this series this month and to talk about this, because I think that we want to connect, but depending on how we're wired and built, it's hard to really bear our souls in this way, because we're kind of constantly bombarded with, well, you should feel this way, or you should be here with God, instead of, oh, well, you shouldn't say that, or you shouldn't feel that. And, or even for me, sometimes I struggle with, when people don't allow me to just say how I feel. Like they're trying to relate, and I know it's in good faith, but they make it all about themselves. They're like, well, when I went through, and it's like, okay, well, you didn't even let me talk about myself. You didn't even let me share. And I'm someone who, I love listening to others. I love it. So it's great. I'll just listen to you, and absolutely, and we can talk about your stuff. And so I can easily let myself kind of be pushed into the corner of my needs with others. And so I always have to just make sure that I'm attending to that, and I'm not allowing people to just, I'm going to talk all about myself. And in doing that, I have found the close friends and a couple of family members that are safe. You can talk to them. And I have church family that they are safe. They're our extended family, honestly. So it's been a tough journey. I couldn't have said that about church family. I guess even 4 years ago, I couldn't have said that. We would have been very much alone. So for those of you that are alone, you don't have that, you feel like you hate church or you would never go back or whatever, it's no slight against you either. I certainly understand that. And I would still say to get connected with friends that you trust, people that know you through and through, that aren't going to manipulate or try to use your pain against you or anything like that, because there are definitely people like that in the world. And we don't all have safe family. We don't all have safe people that we can trust, but trust somebody. Don't try to do this alone. So I know that that's a little different from what I've shared this week. I know I've talked just a little bit more about anger and how anger doesn't stop your prayers with God. And how we need to give space for grief and not rush that process, because a lot of people don't understand the grieving process that ensues with pregnancy loss. You are losing a child. It doesn't matter where you are in your pregnancy. I have held my dead baby, after giving birth to her, our daughter. Like I've held her, but I've also had an early loss. Let me tell you, it's all very different, but it's still loss, and you still deserve to be able to grieve. And give space for the child that you've lost. So it don't let somebody push you around and tell you that you should just get over it, because with all due respect, you're the one in it, not them. So it's always easier to look outside of somebody's problem or something they're going through and say, oh, well, you should really be doing it this way. But unless you've ever been in that arena, just have a seat, have several seats, because that is that's the worst. Yeah. So listen, I appreciate you guys and your support. Again, if you want to see more of these videos, hit subscribe. You'll get them directly to you. If you're interested in the TikToks, I am going to be making a compilation of TikToks towards the end of the month. So they'll all be available here. You're not going to miss out on anything. But if you want to see them in real time, you can also go to my website, which is atouchoflourish.com, the blog that I write. So you'll get the descriptions with the videos, the TikTok videos all together. So you could go there. Also available on Instagram and TikTok. Handle is A Touch of Flourish. So I thank you guys so much. Thank you for also joining the community and just being open about what's going on with you. A lot of people like to share on TikTok, their experiences, whether they're right in the middle of loss, or someone the other day actually just talked about she's just lost her third baby, and she's just in it and really, really open to talking about it. And I really appreciate that. I've also had somebody else who shared that she lost her baby due to incontinent cervix and went on to have a healthy pregnancy and baby. And I really, really appreciate the honesty and openness that I found online just about pregnancy loss and miscarriage in general. I mean, my gosh, I think that we're all aching to connect, because I think that there's a misunderstanding or a lack that's happening just within our communities right now. And I'm not going to get into why, but I think that rather than talk about the issue of why, let's just make a point to connect and to share with one another and bear our burdens together. So thank you so much for tuning in this week. I look forward to sharing with you next week. Take care.